everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the Gamer Girl Podcast. Today, we're here with that one guy Skits and Kingy Beagy and Mario Plush Bros. And today's main topic is going to be the French Monarchs. We're going to go through every single one, and we're basically going to be talking about them, giving our opinions on them, and what we think they did was good, or if they look like trash, or whatever it may be. So, you guys want to... let's do a beverage check first, and we'll see what we got. I'll start.
Yeah.
So I got water right here,
Beverages.
and let's see what my son's got.
I've got off-brand Coke and a protein shake.
Oh yeah.
Again, I'm gonna be honest, these things do not taste good, but I love them.
Oh yeah. Wait, what? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they don't make any sense.
They don't taste good, but I love them. He's got juicy juice.
You're thirsty. You're thirsty.
Alright, well, this is going to be a long video. We have over 60 monarchs to go through. We're basically going to be going through every monarch from Charlemagne all the way down to Napoleon III, right before the Third Republic was founded. What?
Might not be in this episode very long.
Yeah, Reedy Bowling's camera, Chromebook's going to die at some point in the middle. So,
Not even towards the middle, probably now.
probably soon. He might be here for a few minutes. Maybe we can get a few monarchs done. Alright, so this is going to be a long video. There's over 60 monarchs. If we spend 1 minute on each monarch, this video is going to be an hour long. So we need to try to not take too much time on each monarch. But we will spend long on the good ones like Louis XIV and Charlemagne and those influential ones.
And Jean the First.
Jean the First! Yes, he was by far the best king. But we're not talking about him right now. We will get to him once we get to him. So, we're going to start here with Charlemagne. So,
Cool fact about Charlemagne, I share a birthday with him.
yes, my son shares birthday with Charlemagne. He was the emperor. Ruled from 768 to 814. So what do you guys got to say about Charlemagne? Son?
Jerry, you just cut out so hard.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what you just said.
Okay, I was just saying... I think it recorded on my part, hopefully. But here's what happened, so... Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Charlemagne was the first person to be crowned emperor since the fall of Rome in 476. He was crowned on Christmas Day 800, but he actually ruled starting in 768 and ruled until 814. One of the most legendary emperors, one of the longest reigning French monarchs, surprisingly, and he's awesome. So, son, what do you have to say about him? Son is freaking love Charlemagne.
I do share a birthday with Charlemagne.
Yes, my son shares a birthday with him, April 2nd. Charlemagne was born on April 2nd.
Charlemagne's cool.
Oh, yeah.
You can probably make his name up with champagne. He's got the best birthday in the world.
Indeed. He was one of the... He's basically considered to be the first French monarch and the first Holy Roman Emperor. Because through his sons, the kingdom kind of split. So, Reedy Ballin, what do you got to say about Charlemagne?
Sounds like an 8 out of 10 for me. Definitely S tier.
Oh, yeah. He's a freaking legend.
Hey, he is a triple S tier for me.
Oh, yeah.
Triple S tier.
Triple S tier.
Triple S tier.
He might be...
I double right. That's how much better I am than you. I play double right.
Yeah. He's got to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, king to exist in history. Oh, yeah, he does. All those early kings got beards. So that's Charlemagne. So
Oh, you did it.
he had 3 main sons, and here's what happened. So two of his sons, his first 2 sons, die before him. His eldest doesn't have any kids. But the throne passed to his 3rd son, the only one that actually outlived him, and he became Louis the First. The legendary Louis the First. Now, note that a lot of kings down this line are going to be named Louis, and this is the original one. Yeah. Alright, so he reigns from 814 to 840. Pretty decent reign, I guess. So, what do you guys got to say about Louis the First? Oh, I have pictures on my phone. I'm going to send them to the server. That way you guys can see a picture of the guy. Let's see here. I'll send them to the podcast chat. Alright, here's Louis the First right here.
There's a problem. I can't check that because I'm using my phone. But
Using your phone to record?
yeah, because I don't have a phone.
Oh!
It's sent for me, like, I'm still waiting for it to send.
Oh, okay. Well, he's on there. He looks awesome. Let me see if I can get a picture actually on my screen. Right here. Here he is.
Oh. He's pretty
Jean the First better.
Yeah, I mean, no one's going to beat him. So that's Louis the First. Louis the First, I'd say he's one of the, I mean, he was the first Louis, and they named so many Louis after him, so. Also one of the few that is actually an emperor on this list. So, Reedy Bowling, what do you got to say about Louis the First?
Man, I give him a 6 out of 10. I don't know much about him, but he looks cool, so I gave him some points. Honestly, he doesn't look like a swipe right, he looks like a swipe left to me, but he's definitely up there. He's probably in tier B+. Definitely in...
Did you see his mustache?
Yeah,
Oh, he's got a beard, dude.
That's what gave him the 6. That's what gave him the 6.
Did he have a mustache? I kinda
He has a beard and a mustache, and he's got this, like... That's a good shot of him.
Oh,
Yeah.
Look at that.
Christ.
hey,
He looks like Jesus.
Dude, he's got the apple of Eden. You ever played Assassin's Creed?
I've never played it.
He's definitely. I kiss that man.
Son, settle down there, buddy. Alright, so that's Louis the First. Now, after him we get Charles the Bald, who's also known as Charles II, because Charlemagne's name literally means Charles the Great. So he was Charles II, Charles the Bald. Fun fact, he was actually not bald. The name was just a joke. I don't know why they called him that.
Cool.
I guess so. Alright, we're going to pull up a picture of Charles the Bald here, and you guys are going to tell me. Oh yeah, he rules from 840 to 877. 37 years on the throne. Not bad indeed. I actually don't have a picture of him on here.
Queen Elizabeth II.
Oh yeah, no one is ever going to be here. There will be a king later on that will beat her. There's one that actually reigned longer than her. Here's Charles the Bald.
That looks like Freddie Mercury.
He's got a sweet mustache.
He does have a sweet mustache.
He does.
I will say that. But maybe behind his crown he has a receding hairline. I can see myself.
Yeah, it's reflecting off the... There we go. But yeah, he's not bald, as you can see.
Maybe under the crown he is.
Maybe. I think his forehead was bald. I think it was more like this, but he had hair in the back. So, I don't know. That's Charles the Bald. Next up was his son, Louis II, who only reigned for 2 years, 877 to 879. Again, he doesn't really do much.
That will be on this list,
Yeah. He's one of the shortest reigning, but there was another one that did not reign as long as it reigned shorter than him. Oh, there's a lot later on that really don't. Okay, here's Louis II.
Look at that beard. Now that's a beard.
I know.
A beard.
Dude, these early kings look awesome. Oh yeah. These early kings look so good. Alright, guys. I can't, there's like no sound anymore. Oh, okay, there we go. I was like, you guys aren't even... I was like, what is happening right now? Oh, he left.
Okay.
That's what happened. Oh, it's just me and my son now. I guess Reedy Bowling is gone. Okay. Well, see you next week, that one guy. Skits.
He got wiped out.
He literally did. He did get wiped out. I guess we'll see him next week. Alright, well anyway. Let's Louis II. Next up we get his eldest son, Louis III. Let's pull him up here. He's king from 879 to 882, only 3 years. Let's see, here he is.
Let's get Charlemagne as a guest.
Oh yeah, baby. We could bring him back.
Who is this?
This is Louis III.
Louis III. See, he didn't have a beard, so.
Yeah, he's one of the worser. He's one of the more worse-looking kings of France. Actually, it wasn't France at the time; it was West Francia. But yeah, he's just. It was in the same area, yeah. Again, Louis III, probably the worst so far out of those guys. So, Louis III died without any sons, so the throne passed to his brother, Charlemagne II. I have no idea who Charlemagne I is. I don't know. But that's him. Charlemagne II, let's talk about him.
Was there a Roman emperor named Charlemagne? It could have been.
I'm sure there was somewhere up there. I think what it was, there was actually a dynasty that went back, that ruled in that area farther back than Charlemagne. I think there was probably a king somewhere up there named Charlemagne. He was probably Charlemagne I. That was probably what it was. But here's Charlemagne II. Oh shoot, you can kind of see him.
He also doesn't got a beard.
Nah, him and Louis III look pretty bad compared to most of the other monarchs around this time period. We'll probably say those two, yeah. Oh yeah, he's king from 882 to 884 again. He doesn't reign very long either. During his reign, the king of East Francia, Charles the Fat, takes over. He invades and then he takes the crown and he rules all of modern-day Germany, all modern-day Italy, all modern-day France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. So basically all of Western Europe except for the Iberian Peninsula and the British Isles. He rules all of that land. Charles the Fat. He came over and defeated him after Charlemagne II died because his brother was actually like 9 years old at the time. So he took advantage of that. Alright, here we go.
So was Charlemagne II's brother, was he executed or was he spared?
No, he was alive. He actually stayed alive through it. And actually becomes king later on. But he's not out of the picture. He's still alive. I'm surprised he didn't execute him. That would have been smart. So here's Charles the Fat now. He's got a beard.
He's fat.
Yes, he was the fattest French king, I think.
Now look at that beard, though.
He does look awesome, though. He was called Charles the Fat for a reason. But he doesn't get a number. He's not Charles III for some reason. He's just Charles the Fat.
Is there another Charles III?
Yes, there is. There is a Charles III later on. But you have Charlemagne, then you have Charles II, and then you have Charles the Fat, and then Charles the III. So there's basically 11 Charles. That's
Instead of 10.
Yes. There is 10. Legally 10. So that's Charles the Fat. He's king for a while. So then they decide to elect a new king from a completely different dynasty called the Robertian dynasty. And his name is Odo of Paris. Now, he's not king for very long. He rules from about, let's see here, 888 to 898. Actually, that's 10 years. That's not too bad. His name was Odo. He was basically not descended from Charlemagne or any of those guys from earlier. Here's Odo. He doesn't look too bad. Just got a snap. Ignore that. He looks better than Louis III.
Yeah, Louis III looks stupid, but...
And Charlemagne II.
But Charles the Fat, now he's got the beard that you want.
Yeah. Yeah. No one, like, his beard's kind of mediocre compared to, like, Louis I and Charles the Fat and Charlemagne. He's kind of middle of the road guy. Odo.
Yeah.
And then you get...
Like, he's got a beard.
Yeah. At least he looks better than Louis III and Charlemagne II.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, he's king from that. But in 898, the younger brother of Louis III and Charlemagne II comes back in trying to take the throne, and he is Charles III. Yes, he's also known as Charles the Simple. because I guess he was
Wait.
very simple-minded.
Did Charles that's one that took over, right?
Yeah, but he died, and then they elected a new king, who was Odo.
That's why he wasn't Charles III, because
Yeah.
he wasn't a descendant.
He was a descendant, but he wasn't the most senior descendant. He was part of the other side of the continent.
Was he a descendant of Charlemagne?
He was, because Louis I's youngest son was king of East Francia, and his eldest son was king of West Francia. So he was a distant cousin that took over. So they were all related. He took the claim, and then Charles the Fat died, and then they elected Odo, and then Odo died, and then this guy comes in, Charles, the younger brother of Louis III and Charlemagne II. So he's like, we need to restore the original monarchy, so he comes in and takes it over and becomes king from 898 to 922. So 24 years on the throne. Charles III of France, of West Francia. He's known as Charles the Simple because I guess he was very simple-minded. This is another guy that looks like a historical figure.
He's got an okay beard.
His beard's okay. Again, he's not as cool looking as the other guys, but I think he looks better than Odo, though.
Yeah, I think Charles the Fat's probably going to take the cake for best beard.
Yeah.
He's got a cool beard.
He does. So that's Charles III, Charles the Simple. If you don't know who he is. Next up, we're gonna get. So they elected a new guy, or they didn't elect him. Odo's brother comes back in and basically defeats, or Charles III dies, and then Odo's younger brother Robert becomes the king now. So we're back to the Robertians. So this is kind of a mess. He becomes King Robert I, and we're going to show him right here. He looks. They don't have a very good picture of him, but here's Robert I. He's king from, let's see here, 922 to 923. He's only on the throne for 1 year.
He has a mustache, but barely a beard.
His armor looks cool though.
He does have cool armor. I will give that. His armor makes up for his lack of beard.
Yes. His armor makes up for the lack of... I just spit all over the table. Yeah, his armor makes up for the lack of beard. So yeah, that's that's Robert I. So Robert I dies, and he doesn't have any sons. So what he does is a kind of a weird thing happens. He has a daughter who marries a man. Big surprise, she married a man, guys. Thank God, okay. And that guy becomes the new king, and he becomes King Rudolph. Or Raoul, as you would say it in French or something like that. Now, Rudolph is a freaking piece of crap, because he's the only King Rudolph we ever had. He was king from 923 to 936. He's the son-in-law of Robert I. Because remember, Robert I was only king for... I looked up Rudolph, and look what came up. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I meant to put Rudolph of West Francia. I forgot that thing existed.
You forgot about the reindeer?
I did. I'm just so caught up on these monarchs that when someone says Rudolph, I just think of King Rudolph now. Now he looks pretty sweet. I think he looks pretty cool. There's Rudolph.
He's got a good beard.
Oh, he's got a great beard. He looks like an old man. He's got cool hair too. He's got his staff right there. It's my birth minute. Let's go.
Since his hair is cool, he might. Yeah. He's better than Charles VIII on beard status. So we'll say that Charles VIII, he's got beard, but he's got definition. Like it's defined.
Yeah.
And look at that hair though. That's hair goals.
This guy looks great. Rudolph looks great. I will admit Rudolph's claim is very dodgy to the throne, but at least he looks good. And when you're a king, you gotta look good. Next up, we have Charles. So his brother-in-law was Hugh the Great. He tried to become king, but he decided, you know what, I'm not really going to become king because I don't want to get myself in all this conflict stuff. So he supports the son of Charles III. Remember Charles III from his son becomes Louis IV. Now, and he reigns from 936 to 954, so 18 years. So then we get Louis the IV next up. Now, Louis IV Again, got good beard. Oh, yeah, he got good beard again. Oh, yeah, look at that beard. That's Louis the Fourth right there.
He's got a weird head shape.
He does. He does a weird head shape. And, like, his painting's, like, frowned. He looks like he's frowning. He looks sad.
Yeah. He's a sad boy.
He's a sad boy. I don't know why he was sad, but who knows. So that's Louis the Fourth. Next up, we get his son. His son, he became king. He ruled from 954 to. Now Lothair, sadly, has no beard, so he's obviously going to rank lower on the list.
He's got no beard.
No beard whatsoever. And he was the only Lothair.
I mean, he looks good, but
Yeah.
no beard, no king of mine.
He's not, like, up top. He's honestly one of the most forgettable French kings, considering there was only one Lothair. You always forget about him. Him and Rudolph, there were only one of. So they're hard to remember.
But at least Rudolph looks good.
Rudolph looks good, yeah. I mean, like, the Lothair isn't bad looking, but all the kings at this time had beards, so he was just automatically at the top. So next up we get his son, Louis V. Now, Louis V was the last king of the Carolingian dynasty. So yeah, Charles V. I put Louis V, and then it shows Louis Vuitton bags.
Vuitton bags?
Yeah, from that store. Here we go. Oh, that's Hugh Capet. Here's Louis V. Again, he's another one. He carried on the tradition like his father and messed up his looks by having no beard. He looks like yeah, he's got a cool shield, I guess.
Yeah, but no beard, no king of mine.
Yeah, true. Again, he looks really young, too. I don't really know what the deal is with that. 986, 987. He's on the throne for 1 year. Then he gets overtaken by Hugh the Great. Remember Hugh the Great? He was Robert I's son. So Robert I's grandson comes in and becomes the legendary Hugh Capet and starts the Capetian dynasty, which would rule France for the next 800 years. So the Carolingians are now gone. That was the one that Charlemagne was from. So now we get the House of Capet with Hugh Capet right here. Now, obviously, I'm a descendant of Hugh Capet, as I showed you earlier. He's king from 987 to 996. Now, he looks awesome.
No. Yeah, he basically... I mean, that's what Lord Farquaad wish he looked like.
Oh, yeah, plus his crown looks awesome, too.
Yeah, he does have a cool crown.
Indeed. And he's got a beard, he's got a mustache, it's nicely... His hair is nice and curled. He's got the ball down there, whatever you call that thing.
What happened to all their crowns? Like, did they just, put them in a vault?
I don't know. I think they carry him down. But, again, they're not going to last forever. I doubt they still have that crown. Maybe someone... I don't know. Who knows? Because they seem to have different crowns. Maybe they get new crowns for each king. I don't actually know. But that was Hugh Capet. Obviously, those paintings were actually not painted when they were ruling. Those are later depictions of them, but those are just the best paintings we have, so we just assume that's what they look like. We have paintings of them back then, but they look really bad. You can't. It looks like a first grader drew them. So, Robert II is up. His eldest son is Robert II. They basically, firstborn son takes the throne and down. And this is the period of history where we get about 400 years of simple father-son succession, with each monarch having a nice long 40-year reign around that time, which is actually really healthy for a monarchy to have. Because in England, it jumps around all over the place. Here, it was 400 years of straight father-son, 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 all the way down until we get Jean I, and then he screws it up. He screws up the father-son. Well, really, Louis the Tenth. Excuse me.
John the First is the greatest ever.
Yeah.
Greatest monarch to ever live.
Yeah, greatest, just not French monarch, greatest monarch to ever live. Just monarch.
Ever. In human history, greatest monarch ever lived, John the First.
Indeed. So now we get Robert II, who. Let's see here. 996 to. This is a kind of a blurry picture, but here he is.
It's a weird looking beard.
He's got like a. It's got curls in it, and then it's got the mustache. He's got the mustache on top. He's got the crown. That looks like the same crown that Hugh Capet had, though. Maybe they.
I like him. This beard looks weird.
I'm a descendant of this guy too, through both sides.
Like that beard.
Because so here's how it is. Because on both sides of the tree, because Edward III's mother was French princess, and then you have you get up to the side, William the Conqueror's wife is actually this was her grandpa, I think. So that's kind of cool. Next up, we get his son, Henry the First. Henry the First, as you would say in English, but it's Henry the First. Now he's the last Henri we're gonna get for a while, but just remember he's Henri the First. He's king from 1060. Now the only painting we have of him is his head is tilted sideways. Here he is. It seems like they all look very similar to each other. But there he is.
Well, that's probably because I think they all painted them a similar way.
Yeah, because they were all painted around the same time. Once we get more closer to the present, they'll start looking different.
Yeah.
Again, all these ones look the same. You got the cape crown, beard.
Yeah. At least they have beards.
This guy, Henri the First, very middle of the road. I will say his crown looks pretty solid, but very middle of the road when it comes to beard and stuff. All right.
Are we halfway yet? Like how far are we?
We're a few generations. We're in the 1060s right now, and this goes up.
How
many monarchs have we done?
Yeah.
We've done probably about maybe 20, somewhere around there, 15 to 20. We're probably about 20. I don't know, for about 25%. We're I don't know if we're that far. Maybe about 20% done. All right. Then we get Henri the First's son, Philippe the First. They started to introduce new names at this time. Again, we're not getting any more Roberts. There are only 2 Roberts. But then we get Philippe the First of France. Oh yeah, this is where it started to become France. Actually, not with him. Philippe II, or Philippe II, not Louis Philippe II. Philippe II. But they still considered themselves king of West Francia, even though it was France. All right, here's Philippe the First here. Once we get to the point where they actually have good paintings of the original, we'll show those. But here's this is Philippe the First. Again, no beard.
No beard.
He's got I think he's the first guy to have the fleur-de-lis symbol on his cape, right, or on his outfit right here, which is the French logo, coat of arms thing, and they'll have that. Almost every monarch's going to have that on their outfit. That's
still not beard.
True. Philippe the First is king from 1060 to 1108, so he's obviously one of those that have a long reign. 48 years, the longest up to that point, was Philippe the First. Next up, we're going to get Louis VI. Alright, here we go. Louis VI is king from 1108. 29 years. Here he is, man. Bit on the larger side. I don't really care too much for Louis VI as a king. He was kind of just, existed. But there he is.
He doesn't really have a beard. Like,
he doesn't.
Goatee.
It's really strange looking what he has going on. But, you know, that's Louis VI. Not much to say about him. Next up we get Louis VII is his son. He reigns from 1137 to 1180. Quite long of a reign. Okay, I already told to do that. Louis VII is one of my favorite French kings. I don't know why. But he actually married Eleanor of Aquitaine for his first wife, and she actually ended up marrying Henry II. So she was married to Louis VII, and then Henry II of England. So that's pretty good for her, honestly. And then he married a second time to the Princess of Castilla, which was an ancient Spanish kingdom. They didn't have any. He didn't have any kids with either one of those two. And then he married a third time, and that's who he had his son with. But let's get to Louis VII here. Again, we're so early on, and we already have 7 Louis. That just goes to show how many Louis there were. All right, there's Louis VII.
There's gonna be a lot more.
Oh yeah, we're not even halfway done with the Louis yet.
Not even halfway done with Louis.
Here's Louis VII.
He's got a cool beard.
He does. He looks
a
good.
really cool mustache.
I think he looks good. I think he looks great. Oh, that crown looks great too.
Yeah, a lot better than the other guys.
Yeah. Louis VII's a really cool king. He's one of my personal favorite French monarchs. The little that I know about them, he's one of the ones I know the most about. Next up, we're going to get... I'm going to leave the poster right here. We're going to get his son. Guess who Louis VII's son was?
Jean I.
Nope. Philippe II. Now, Philippe II is an interesting case, because he was the first person to use the title King of France. He was actually the first real French monarch. This is when they started calling the kingdom France during his reign. Now, he succeeds Louis VII when he dies. He becomes king in 1180 and reigns till 1223. During his reign, France attempts to invade England and take it over, and his son, Louis the Lion, who eventually becomes Louis VIII later on, he invades England during the reign of King John of England, and he basically takes him over and actually becomes the disputed king of England for a few months, because Henry III was only 9 years old. So he becomes a disputed king of England, but he's never actually crowned, which is kind of sad, but you know, it's just how it goes sometimes. So that's Louis VIII, but we're on to Philippe I, or Philippe II right now. Philippe II, yeah, he's pretty neat. All right, here we go. Of France, it keeps wanting to do Philip II of Spain. There are a lot of Philips in European history. Now, we don't really have a good picture of Philippe II, so we're going to have to use one of the original drawings of him. Alright, this is one of the original paintings of him, of Philippe II. He's got in the middle. Again, he can't really make out anything.
It looks amazing.
He does look great, though. He's got the fleur-de-lis symbols. He's got the... oh, shoot. I don't know who that is, but that's him. Also looks awesome. He's got all those people around him, too. So it's awesome. Now, that was actually painted during his reign. That was the first of these that were actually painted during his reign. So Philippe II is followed by his son, Louis VIII. Now, Louis VIII is known as Louis the Lion because he had a lot of conquests and invaded England and took it over. But he was never actually crowned King of England, which kind of sucked. But that's how that was. He actually only reigned for 3 years, from 1223 to 1226. One of these shorter reigning monarchs. Luckily, he did have a grandson, though. Philippe II had a grandson, so the father-son succession stayed afloat, which was good. But anyways, we're going to look at Louis VIII. Louis VIII is also one of my favorite French monarchs, too. He looks awesome, too. Now, this guy doesn't have a beard, but I just love the background of this painting. This painting just looks awesome. And look at that cape.
It It makes him look somewhat heavenly.
I know, he looks awesome. I think he looks sweet. He's known as Louis the Lion. Look, he's got that cape in the background. He doesn't have a beard or a mustache or really hair at all. His crown looks cool. His cape looks awesome. I love that background on the thing. So that, more than just his looks itself, the painting looks great. So that's Louis VIII. He's known as Louis the Lion. Sadly, he didn't reign very long. He only lived to be about 39, too. Luckily, though, he did have a son who became Louis the IX. Now, Louis the IX is the last one that, or that's how I'm related to Louis the 14th, because we both descend from Louis the IX. I still descend from all these guys. Louis the IX. Now, Louis the IX is also known as St. Louis. St. Louis, Missouri is actually named after this guy that I'm about to show you, which is pretty cool. Which is kind of crazy if you think about it. But he was known as St. Louis. He's the only French monarch to be granted sainthood. Here's Louis IX. Oh, yeah.
He doesn't look bad.
Got a lot of clothes, that's for sure.
It doesn't look nearly as good as Louis III. No,
Louis the Third?
Louis the First.
The original Louis?
I forgot. The OG.
Louis the Third was the guy that looked stupid without a beard.
Yeah, he looks better than Louis the First.
I understand you're getting the Louis mixed up. I understand you're getting the Louis mixed up because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
That's how it is in monarchies, because they don't name their kids unique things. They repeat names, and then it's just Louis the First, Second, Third, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, Eighth, Ninth, and so on and so forth. Louis the IX was followed by his son, Philippe III. Oh yeah, Louis the IX was actually king from 1226 all the way to 1270. Very long reign. Again, he took the throne pretty young because his father, Louis VIII, died young. So I think he was actually, how old was Louis the IX when he became king? He was 12 when he became king. And lived to be, he lived to be 58, or 56. Or not 56, yeah. He started his reign when he was 12, because Louis VIII died in his 30s. Alright, next we get Philippe III. Philippe III was king from 1270 to 1285, only 15 years. Philippe III. Now, I do descend from this guy as well. So yeah. Here's Philippe III. Oh yeah.
He's got that jawline.
Does. Okay, I think this is about the time where they started to ditch the beards.
Oh, then what's the point?
I don't know. I guess they thought it was just made you look homeless or something. I don't know.
How much longer until Jean the First?
Jean the First was this guy's great-grandson.
We're almost there.
We're almost there. Next up is Philippe IV. Philippe IV is the last French monarch that I descend from because his daughter married Edward II, and I'm obviously a descendant of Edward III. So Edward III this is his grandpa, Philippe IV. Philippe IV was known as Philip the Fair because he was a very, I guess, fair king. He wasn't really trying to have complete power. He was a good king. Again, he's the son of Philippe III. He's Philippe IV. He reigns from 1285 to 1314.
Holy crap.
So, that's only 29 years actually. It's not actually that long.
Yeah,
it sounds long.
But it's not.
Well, it's somewhat long. I mean, 20 years is a long time, but that's not nearly the longest reigning in history. Here's Louis IV. I'm trying to get a good view of him.
Philippe IV.
Philippe IV. I meant to say Philippe.
He looks
Sword.
He would look better with a beard.
Yeah, he would. Sword, though. Philippe IV is a legend because it's through him that you start the 100 Years' War, because because it's what happens after him that gets screwed up. Now, his eldest son is Louis X. Louis X dies in his 20s, okay? And we all know the story. Let's show you Louis X first here. Louis X, he's king from 1314 to 1316. Only 2 years on the throne. Louis X. This is the eldest son of Philippe IV. Again, no beard. Yeah, it doesn't look nothing special there.
He's got a nice crown.
He does. Yeah, the French knew how to make the crowns. I think the French crowns look better than the English crowns. I think the French kings like clothes look much better than England treated them. It seems like France wanted the royalty aspect more than England did, just personally. So Louis X dies in his 20s without any kids, but his wife was actually pregnant with a son. So he dies in June of 1316. The son is not born until November 1316. And he becomes King Jean I. He rules in the womb for 5 months, but he's born on November 15th, 1316, and dies in 5 days. 5 days later. He only lives for 5 days, but he's king for 5 months. So he basically rules in the womb for 5 months. Yes.
He was the most fair king ever.
I know, he didn't do anything to hurt the kingdom.
But he also didn't do anything to help the kingdom.
True.
He's got a little of that.
Here's his grave.
That's his grave?
Yeah.
It looks so weird.
That's how they bury him. He was the only child of Louis X. Now this is where the 400 plus years of simple father-son succession came to an end right here, because Jean did not have any kids.
Yeah, because he was only 5.
5 days! Not 5 years, 5 days!
He was only 5 days. He couldn't even make it to 5.
No, he couldn't even make it to a week. He couldn't even make it to a week. But he did make it 5 days. Some people die at birth. So.
That's true. He did wait until 5 days.
But it's funny because they waited 5 months for him to be born. They were without a king for 5 months, and they're waiting for this baby boy to be born, and he's born and dies 5 days later. Which is crazy. So this is when, so then his uncle, Philippe V, becomes king. Now, Philippe V, there's a problem. He's king from 1316 to 1322, only 6 years. But he dies without any kids. Also. Let's show Philippe V here. These guys aren't really have much to show. These guys are kind of wimps. This is Jean's uncle, the second son of Philippe IV. Louis X's younger brother. Philippe V. Get no beard, but looks alright, I guess. His face is kind of weird. Yeah. I don't even know who that is, but I agree with you. So yeah, that's Philippe V. So Philippe V dies without any kids, and his brother Charles IV is next up. The third son is Charles IV of France. Now, there's a problem after Charles IV dies. Now, you're going to think this is the same guy I just showed you, but no, this is actually a different guy. He looks almost exactly the same as Philippe V. This is actually a different guy. He looks the same, though.
Why do they look the same?
I don't know, but they do. So that's Charles IV. So here's the problem. So Louis X dies in his 20s. His son is born 5 months later and lives 5 days. His uncle Philip becomes king, but Philip dies without any heirs, and his brother Charles also dies without any heirs. So this leads to the first succession crisis in France, because they don't know who's going to become king next, because there's no more brothers or any kids, any close relatives. So this is what starts the 100 Years' War, because basically the rule in France was Salic law, which meant that only a male could inherit the throne. But there was kind of a dispute going on if that male had to come from a strict male-only line or if a male from a female branch was allowed. Now, there were two main candidates. Philippe IV had a daughter, who was the daughter of Louis X, Philippe V, and Charles IV, named Isabella. She married Edward II of England and had a son named Edward III. So Edward III claimed to be the true king of France. But people in France did not want the king of England because they hated each other. They did not want the king of England becoming king of France. So they went to Philippe IV's younger brother, Charles, the Count of Valois. And it was his son who became Philippe VI. It was the dispute between those two people that started the 100 Years' War between France and England. France eventually won that war.
Which French monarch wrestled an English monarch?
Oh, I was Francois the First. Francis the First.
How long ago was that?
Are we there yet? Nah, that was 1500s. We're still in the 1300s. So, let's see, here we have. So now we get, that is the end of the House of Capet. The House of Capet is now dead because of that disaster that just happened back there. Next up is the House of Valois, who is a junior branch of the Capets, who actually went on to rule in Sicily, or not Sicily, Hungary. The House of Capet went on to rule in Sicily. So then you get that. The House of Valois with Philippe VI, who was king from 1328 to 13... dies. Even though I don't think Edward III was a legitimate king because they were really strict because they followed agnatic primogeniture, which clearly stated has to be from a strict male-only line. And Edward III was not from a strict male-only line. So I think Philippe VI was definitely the rightful descendant. But it would have been an interesting twist if England would have won that war, because that would have probably meant England and France would have been united under the same ruler. And history might have gone in a very different direction if that were the case. But it didn't, and they lost. But now, Philippe VI was the last Philippe to be king. Interestingly. Here it is.
Oh, okay. Time.
Yeah.
Wait. Time check. How far along are we in with time? How long are we on?
It is. We're currently in the around 1350. So we're about halfway. I said 1400 was halfway.
Are we like? How long are you recording? 45 minutes?
I don't actually know when we started. It's 8:02. I think we started about 7:20 probably.
I just wanted to make sure that we don't do all of them without Jacob because.
Okay.
I think we should do 10 more, and then we should save the rest for Jacob.
Let's find a good place to stop. So let's stop with let's stop with Charles VIII. Charles VIII.
Charles. Okay.
Who is the last king? Because from this point forward we get simple father-son successions until he dies without any sons. Then it screws it up again. And then we'll pick up with Louis XII once we get with Reballing and do the more modern era.
All
right. So this is Philippe VI.
He's got a cool crown, but no beard.
No beard. His face looks wimpy. Just saying. So that's Philippe VI. He was followed by his son Jean II. Okay?
Jean II.
And he was Jean II, which actually means they counted Jean I as an actual king.
Go, as they should. Best monarch that ever exists.
And that's how you know he's always counted, because like if that were to happen in England, they probably wouldn't have counted it, because they don't count disputes like that. But France, oh yeah, they count Jean I as an actual monarch.
They know how to run a monarchy.
Oh yeah, they do. Strict male only, no females can inherit. They're very strict with their laws, and it was good. Here's Jean II. Now this is actually the second painting. This was painted during his reign. Oh my God.
Hey.
Interesting.
Not bad.
Unique painting right there. Not bad. That's Jean the Second. Let's see here. 1350 to 1364. Yeah, 1300s. That was painted.
Holy crap.
So we're almost out of the Middle Ages. We're almost out of the Middle Ages. Okay, we have a few more kings left. We're going to do Charles V, Charles VI, Charles VII, Louis XI, and Charles VIII left. We're going to do that.
Alright.
Alright, so next up we get Charles V, who was his son. The son of Jean II. He was known as Jean the Good. This is Charles V of France. Alright, here he is. Oh, I just love this guy's outfit. Oh, it's like that's French.
Was it Louis VIII that wore something like that?
Yeah, Louis VIII. Yeah, he was. Yeah, Louis VIII. The guy with the awesome background.
Yes.
Yeah, that was Louis VIII.
Oh, I actually got it. Let's go.
That was actually impressive. This is Charles V. Technically the 6th Charles, because we had Charles the Fat, but they didn't count him. So that's him. I think his suit looks good, but again, no beard. But you know.
No beard.
Then he was followed by his son Charles VI. This is a rare time in French history where we actually get 3 monarchs in a row with the same name. We get Charles V, 6th, and 7th. Back to back to back. Here's Charles VII. Now Charles VII had some really bad mental issues. I don't know too much of the details, but that's all I know about him. Here he is. Again, this was also painted during his reign.
That's sad.
Yeah, that looks like another.
Neck beard.
He does. I don't even know what that is. That's actually not a beard. It's actually part of his clothes.
Oh, that was his neck.
That was weird. He was king from 1380 to all the way to 1422. So 42 years. This guy on the throne. Not bad.
Sad.
He does. Well, he did have some mental issues. I don't know if he was depressed or if he was just mentally unstable. That's the thing you have with monarchs, because they inherit the throne, unlike presidents where they're elected. Some monarchs go in, they don't know how to speak very well, they're just stupid, and just because they're born first, they become the ruler. Which I think is kind of cool, and it makes a fun twist to things. That's why with monarchies you have really bad kings and you have really good kings. There's a big distance between them. So Charles VI dies in 1422 and is followed by his son Charles VII. Charles VII reigns from 1422 to 1461. So that's
pretty good.
39 years. That's a pretty good distance. Charles
not nearly as long as Jean the First.
Not nearly as long, just like 50 times longer or more than that probably. Check this guy. That's Charles the what, 7th? Charles the 7th, yeah.
Yeah, that's 7th.
Look at that hat. They ditched the crown. What is that crown? That is not that's a hat. That's like a what even?
Yeah, that's a hat that everyone wants.
This is a king right here.
Yeah, that's what you should want to look like
as
a king.
Those I think he was bald. This should be Charles the Bald. He should be Charles the Bald, not the other guy.
Not Charles II? That's Charles II, right?
Yeah, Charles II should not be Charles the Bald. Charles VII should be Charles the Bald. So Charles VII dies in 1461, is followed by his son. Oh, no. It's during the reign of him that the 100 Years' War finally ends. It's going on that entire time, between all of that. And it finally ends and France wins because England has a king named Henry VI who is an absolute freaking disaster and is basically just a terrible king. And he basically loses the 100 Years' War. Henry V was the older... I'm getting a little off topic here, but ignore me. Just listen. Henry V was the older king of England, and he's only king for 9 years. He made several conquests in France, capturing so much land, and he dies in his 30s. If he would have lived longer, England probably would have won the 100 Years' War. But he died, and his son was 6 months old, Henry VI, and then he rules all the way until the 1460s. And then he's taken over by his cousin, one of his distant relatives. The same year Charles VII died. Both of those happened in 1461, which was kind of crazy. Oh, no. Henry VI reigned from 1422 to 1461, and Charles VII also reigned from 1422 to 1461. That's actually really weird. I did not notice that until now. They had the same years of reign. That's actually kind of funny. Charles VII dies in 1461. He's followed by his son Louis XI. That's fun to say, Louis XI. Yeah. So Louis XI is king from 1461 to 1483. Now he looks, I guess they just decided, you know what, crowns are getting old. Let's just go to hats now. So here's Louis XI, the most unique looking so far.
No, that's a hat right there.
Oh yeah, that's Louis XI right there. I didn't have no idea what to say about that.
Better than any crown.
Yeah, he actually looks so stupid that he looks good.
Yes.
So yeah, that's Louis XI. Alright, now for the last king for the video. His son was Charles VIII, and he rules from 1483 to 1498. Charles VIII. He was the last one in that father-son succession. He was the son of Louis XI, Charles VIII, right here. Shoot. You can't. His skin is so white that it's so glary on the camera, but you can kind of
put it back a little bit. Like tilt it and like there you go. I see it now.
All right.
He's got a jawline.
He does. That's Louis VIII. He's king from, again, 1483 to 1498. So I think we're going to end there, guys. Those are every king from Charlemagne to Charles VIII. 768 to 1498. Let me know what you guys, let us know what you guys think. And son, do you have anything else to say before we end?
John the First is the best. Hands down.
Yes. For those of you that don't think Jean the First was the best king, and those of you that think he's the worst king, you guys are just wrong, and you just need to
should unsubscribe.
Yeah. If you're already subscribed, and actually, you should unsubscribe because, like, if you don't like Jean the First, there's literally something wrong with you. He was the greatest king to ever live.
Yeah, like he did nothing wrong to France. He was like best king. Most fair king on the face of the planet ever. Ever.
And you can't blame him for the 100 Years' War because both of his uncles died without any kids. That was their fault for not having kids.
Yeah,
that was
their fault. They can't have kids.
Yeah.
Louis, so like
Jean couldn't have kids. He was 5 days old. If he would have lived longer, he would have had kids.
Yeah, we know that because he's that good. He's that good of a guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And Louis X died in his 20s, which gave Jean the gateway he needed to become king 5 months before he was even born.
Yeah. So Jean, he's something else.
You know, Jean I is actually the youngest monarch in human history, becoming king 5 months before he was born.
Yes.
Most kings can't say that.
He's that good.
Yeah, he's that good. They let him rule for a whopping 5 months in the womb, for crying out loud. Like, seriously? That is some pretty...
Like, well, if he didn't even die, like he couldn't rule for a couple years. Like, anyway.
True. I mean, they have a
So what
regent.
was their plan?
I have no idea. I guess they would just have a regent. I guess his mother would have ruled as the queen regent until he became of age. That's usually what they do for underage monarchs. Like Henry VI, he became king at 6 months old, and they had a regent for him. His mother served on his behalf of the duties before he became 13 or whenever they make him rule. Whenever they deem he's able to rule on his own. But again, he grows up with everything handed to him and stuff. He's basically treated as the king. He can order people to do things. He just doesn't carry out the power of signing stuff and doing all that stuff. But he basically, you know, that's the problem with young monarchs too. Most of them don't turn out very well because they're just growing up with everything handed to them, and they're not old enough to really see what their father did to actually know what to do as king. So they're just born into it. Just like, yep, do this for me. I'm just gonna lay back here. Yeah, they don't really rule very well, but
Yeah. Oh,
Joel would have.
Podcast.
Yeah, that's the end of the podcast.
We learned that John the First was the best monarch ever lived, and if anyone disagrees, they're wrong.
Indeed. So that's basically it for today, and we'll see you guys next time. Be sure to comment, like, subscribe, unsubscribe if you don't like John the First.
Yeah, if you're unsubscribed, you don't like John the First. If you have any podcast ideas, leave it down in the comments below. Yeah, that's it. See y'all.
We'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
See ya.
See ya.